All right, it's halftime. It is halftime of the Philadelphia Eagles game. That's why we are starting a little behind because, we want to make sure everybody's tuned in and watching live as this game goes to halftime. Finally, the Eagles broke through with a touchdown from Carson Wentz late in that first half, getting into the end zone. It is 10-6 Philadelphia. But man, it's a sloppy game. It is a sloppy, sloppy game. Outside of the 57-yard field goal for Jacksonville, the couple turnovers that they caused from Wentz with the fumble, the interception in the end zone. Arguably, the Eagles should have a little more than 10 points, but it is 10-6. A lot to talk about in the next hour. I know everybody's going to be tuned in. For the most part, there are a lot of Eagles fans. And as we discussed last Sunday about London games, that everybody, some people like it, some people don't. There are some people who think, well, if I don't have a fantasy player or if it's not my team, I don't really care. Or if there's no really impact on my the game or like whether it's whether it's your team or your fantasy squad or gambling implications, you don't tune in. But for the most part on this show, we get a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans watching, and that's why we're on live for halftime as a little bit of your halftime entertainment right now, your little halftime show that we're going to do. It is across the board sports talk show, and this show is brought to you by every Saturday and Sunday from 10:30 till noon. Red Jewelers, the law offices of Albert Yakub. I see Albert already tuned in live. He is watching, I'm sure, at the edge of his seat for this Philadelphia Eagles game. It's a big one. It's a big one for the Eagles. They have to get to 4-4, whatever it takes coming up here in the second half. They need to put their foot down. Look, Jacksonville struggling, all right? Struggling even more offensively than they are defensively in the first half. They obviously forced those two turnovers that has kept them in this game. But the Eagles need this far more than the Jaguars do. The cut above the rest, also a fine sponsor of the show, your Lehigh Valley Realtor Eli Boutros, Laziz Mediterranean Grill, Biagio Pizzeria, JDM Photography, and of course Meza Middle Eastern Cuisine. We'll get into all those advertisers in depth as the show goes on. Of course, Eagles 10, Jaguars 6. That's the main topic of the show today. What happened last night? Look, I'm sitting here. I gotta take blame. I obviously thought the Dodgers were gonna win that game yesterday. Put it out on the show. Thought they would make it 2-2. A 4-0 lead in that game seemed like it was a stranglehold, right? And then all of a sudden, the Red Sox do what the Red Sox do, and that's put up runs. A 9-6 victory for Boston. It's 3-1. Most people think it's over. I would think that if the Dodgers can somehow force Game 6, look, Kershaw versus Sale tonight is going to be an awesome game in Game 6 in LA. I'm still stunned that the Dodgers blew that lead in those last 3 innings the way they did. So last 4 innings, excuse me, with the 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th. They were up 4-0. 4-0 in the 6th. Should be enough. It wasn't. The Red Sox get a big lead. If you want to chime in about the World Series, we can do so on the forum, of course, on an NFL Sunday. We will talk top 5 NFL games of the day. And man, this schedule today, this board looks pretty damn good. And it starts out right now. I mean, this is a big game for the Eagles fans watching the Eagles and the Jags, for two teams that need to stay at 4. They need to get to 4-4, right? Both teams need it. The Eagles need it more. And the reason why I said it yesterday was because the division is that bad, yes, but you don't want to go into the bye week 3-5 with yet to have played the Rams, yet to have played the Saints. This is a crucial game for the Philadelphia Eagles to get that victory. And we want to open up the chat room, of course, on Facebook Live. You can reach the show. Just comment, share, share, subscribe. LSS on the show on across the board sports talk show on YouTube Live. You can get to me on YouTube and definitely chime in there as well. We are live on those both platforms on the Mixer app, mixlr.com/Joe-Unis if you want to chime in on the chat room, which many of you have done in the past. On Twitter at JOEYOUNES15. You can leave your comments on the game or talk about picks or fantasy or all the stuff that we've got coming on. Albert, Anise, Elias, Frank, James, Edwin, everybody tuned in right now. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get the comments going. I already see Albert. Good morning to the best hair in the business. I'm pretty sure, and I don't even know what it looks like. I was chasing the clock this morning because I'm watching the game, trying to do the GodfatherLocks.com work. I'm preparing for the show with all the stuff that we've got going on. I don't even know what it looks like, so I'm hoping it looks okay. But if it doesn't, that's on me because I didn't really focus on how I presented myself today. I just want to talk football. We've got a big hour coming up. We got a lot of games to talk about. It's halftime right now of the Eagles game, so I want to kind of get people paying attention to me rather than the game as best as we could. Reach the show. Let's interact. For what we saw in the first half, I mean, the Eagles are obviously trying to run the ball a little more. They're trying to get Smallwood going. They're trying to get that, Josh Adams going on the ground. It's an obvious, game plan for Doug Peterson, and what they're trying to do for the Philadelphia Eagles is establish that run game and then open up that pass. You got to get your tight ends more involved, right? We got to think Zach Ertz. You got to get more of these guys, and Goddard more involved in the pass game. The Eagles have injuries. We understand that. Every team at this point in the season has injuries. But when it's a must-win and your back's against the wall, yes, you're in London, you got to play better than what we saw in the first half. To have 2 turnovers and to be up 10-6 is phenomenal. It's a great position to be in because now the game's back in your hands. Now the Eagles can run the ball. Now Carson Wentz can get comfortable. He already got those 2 turnovers. I would think that we're not going to see another turnover or 2 from Carson. He's got to play a more sound game. You see what's happening off the field with the Jaguars. They ran up a big tally up in London with a big bill. Some of the secondary players spent so much money that they couldn't even pay the bill, I think the story was. So they got a lot going on the Jacksonville side of the ball. This season is bigger for the Philadelphia Eagles than it is for Jacksonville. We see the problems with Jacksonville. Blake Bortles, he struggles. We're not really sure what the Jaguars can be in the AFC South. I think it's the Houston Texans division to win. Don't know what the Titans are about. Very inconsistent game to game. You don't know what Tennessee team is going to show up. Must win. Albert says agree with the must win. My man Danny Dayub is in listening in live. Danny, hello. Congratulations on his wedding too. Danny got married last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. I saw on Facebook. So big congrats to Danny. And of course, Albert, agree with the must win. It is a must win. And yesterday, I think for some, I think it was Tony that commented, Tony Nassar commented and said that he thinks it's a bigger win for Jacksonville because Houston's running away with the division. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as you have a defending Super Bowl champion team that's trying to make a push at a repeat in a division that's bad. I mean, I think the Giants today is one of my picks. Is coming up at 11:15. We'll do a GodfatherLocks.com free pick segment. I think the Giants beat the Redskins today. I think it's a surprise pick, Joe, but I do like the Giants today. So if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you go to 4-4, the Redskins lose, all of a sudden you're a half a game out. You're 4-4, the Redskins are 4-3. I don't believe in Dallas. And if the Giants get the win, they're only going to be at 2-6 today. So it's an absolute must win across all accounts here. And he says, need to get 1 or 2 from Bortles. I think, Blake Bortles is an interesting cat. I mean, you saw in the first half running the ball with his legs. He can make some plays, but there's something going on with him. Obviously, mentally, I know I listened to the broadcast. I don't know if you guys caught this, but they said he deleted his Twitter account. He was upset at some of his friends. A lot of criticism that was going on with Blake Bortles, the way he played. He got benched last week. Then he comes out off the bench and starts this game. You got to be able to intercept Blake Bortles for at least 1 or 2 interceptions. I'm with you, Anise. They got to force some turnovers. They got to pressure the ball. The defense looked pretty good up front. Look, to hold them to only 2 field goals after having 2 turnovers is pretty good. That's pretty sound. I mean, they could have easily been down more. They could have been down in the game, period. But to be up 10-6 after having 2 turnovers is a pretty good position to be in, considering that, the sloppiness of the game and the way the physicality of this game is going to be. Nobody thought they were going to run up the score and have a shootout today. This is a slugfest. These are 2 of the better defenses in the NFL last year. And arguably people can say, well, the reason why the Jaguars did so well and the Eagles were a Super Bowl champion, a lot had to do with how they got hot late in the year, but the defensive side of the ball is where they made their hay. Defensively is where the Eagles and the Jaguars were so successful last year. And now you're starting to see a little bit from the Eagles in the first half where they kind of, hammered down and were able to make some stops. Danny says, thank you. We will struggle big with no line. If we win today, I will become the largest Giants fan this afternoon. That's how you got to have to look at it. And if you're the Eagles, you get to 4-4. It's a bye week. I mean, it's not the end of the world. All of a sudden, the reason why this second half is massive is not just to get to 4-4, but you're going into a bye week. It changes the complexion of the season. It kind of erases, I don't want to say you forget about the bad losses that they've had, but it erases the Carolina Panthers blunder out of the minds of the fans, out of your players. Then I would think to yourself, okay, now you're 4-4. You've got a bye week, and the division's wide open. And if the Giants somehow beat the Redskins today, you're a half a game out, and it changes the complexion of the year. You're halfway through, and you're 4-4. You got 8 games left. 8 games left. You can get to 9-7. 8 games. You can go 5-3 in your last 8. If you went 4-4 in your first 4, I would think 9-7 could be enough to win this division. And I think that's how the Eagles have to play this: is look at game to game, try to get to 4-4. Now, if you're 3-5, I'm not going to sit there and say the season's over. But 3-5 just looks ugly. 3-5, defending Super Bowl champ to be 3-5 after you play a Jacksonville Jaguars team that you should dominate and you should get a victory over, then it becomes a concern. So your thoughts on the first half. What do you expect to see in the second half? I told you yesterday when we did the show that today was going to be heavy on the Eagles Jaguars. We came on at halftime. The game's, I think it's about to start here in a little bit, the second half. We'll try to keep you updated, and if you guys can help me out on the Facebook app, I'll have it streamed up on my iPad. We'll be able to watch the game as well as we do the show. But what are you guys looking for? I think, look, I'm not trying to rip Carson Wentz, and I don't want to come on here and say that, this all goes on his shoulders. He doesn't have a running game, and if you don't have a running game, the quarterback starts to be the victim of it, right? You need a running game to have some sort of success. I think the pressure needs to start cooking a little bit on Carson Wentz. So what does that mean? I'm not calling for Nick Foles. I'm not saying you bring in Nick Foles. That's pretty ridiculous. I heard that on local sports radio this week. I just think now the excuse of, well, he's coming off that injury has kind of be tempered. It has to be tempered a little bit. We need to see more out of Carson Wentz. I mean, to be critical of him, he just looks like he's rushing every play. I don't know if you guys feel that same way, but he feels like he's rushing to get the ball out of his hands. The O-line is bad. And as Danny just said, we saw Jason Kelce got hurt in the first half of this game, first play or first possession of the game for the Eagles. So the O-line is struggling. But when are we going to start putting pressure on Carson Wentz to finally be Carson Wentz that we saw for the first half of last season, for what the Eagles expected him to be? I'm a big Carson Wentz fan. How do you not like the kid? Okay? And he's coming off a big injury. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make an excuse for him, but you got to take the bull by the horn and start to dominate this game today. It's a perfect opportunity to do so against the Jacksonville team that's struggling. So I want to see out of the second half, I want to see Carson Wentz come out, start to rip this defense apart, make plays with his arm, find his tight ends, find Alshon Jeffrey, find Nelson Aguilar, and put up at least 24 plus points, total for the game. We could see a 2-touchdown second half from Carson and to get this victory. And I think nothing else would be accepted. I don't see Jacksonville really doing much offensively unless Blake Bortles is going to run with his legs and make some some plays on his feet. I don't think the Jaguars are that threatening offensively to this Eagles defense from what we saw in the first half. So what do you want to see in the second half? I think it's starting up here in a minute, or if it did not already start, let's get your comments going on Across the Board Sports Talk Show, of course, on the Facebook Live app. I see a bunch of people tuned in. It is halftime. I'm actually a fan of what this announce team that's going on right now with Rich Eisen and Michael Irvin and Kurt Warner. They've got the announce team going, but I don't know if you want to mute them and try to get involved with the show. I would really appreciate that, of course, on the show. It's hard to go on live during these London games. We talked about the London games last week, and Danny was one of those guys that said, I hate it because your team's playing so early in the morning, but it kind of gets that out of the way, right? If the Eagles win, you got the W, you watch the rest of the day, you're a Giants fan, you're cheering on the Giants, you're going to sit there and watch the Packers and the Rams at 425 to see two really good teams in the NFC. I like the London games. I don't think, we talked about it last week, and people said, oh, it's weird, man, waking up at 9:30, watching football, and your team loses a home game, and all these excuses. Who cares, man? It's football. Let them play. The field's all effed up. Me and Joe were talking about it before we jumped on the air, that the field's all effed up. And we saw Lambeau kick that 57-yard field goal. The weather over there in London, they get a lot of rain over there, right, Joe? I think that's the weather pretty much.
Something like that.
It's like misty and
shitty
weather, right? When we watch the soccer games, they're always there's always fog in the air when these teams are playing. So the weather's not 80 degrees and sunny. No. So for a kicker to kick a 57-yard field goal on a field like that is pretty impressive. I thought it was pretty impressive.
It's definitely not Cali.
Or Jacksonville, right? Jacksonville's probably beautiful right now if the Jaguars were down home. James, coming fresh off his Red Sox win, says, I love the London games. I wish we had 9 a.m. action every weekend. I'm with you. And I'm a crazy sports fan. I was up again last night to about 1:30, 2 o'clock watching the end of that Red Sox-Dodgers game. Ended a little earlier than the night before, which was good. But, of course, watching some college football, I love it. I love waking up early watching these games. And, I think somebody said last week, too, who's sleeping in past 9 o'clock? I mean, who really, like, who gets to do that? Unless you're like a college kid or a teenager that you're living at your parents' house. I mean, who's really sleeping in to 9 a.m. anymore? We all got to get up. I mean, eventually we're up by 7, 8 o'clock. There's some adults that wake up at 8:30, but especially if you have kids, it's hard. I mean, so when you're waking up, what's better? What's better than watching football at 9:30 in the morning to get your day started, and then you watch all the rest of the games. Of course, if you got fantasy impact or picks on the game or gambling or whatever it is, it adds that flavor, right? It adds that juice to the game. It gives you another reason to watch. I mean, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and you already have a game in progress. And for your Philadelphia Eagles fans, it's good to get this out of the way and get them winning. All right, first half has started. Let's see here. Second half, excuse me. I'm all effed up. The second half started. So they forced the punt. So the Jaguars got to about midfield, and they forced the punt. So now the Eagles get the ball 1st and 10 at their own 5. Again, 10-6, 13:48 left for the Eagles in the game. Look, the over-under was 44.5. Again, coming into this game, I don't think many people thought that this was going to be a 41-35 type football game. I think we all expected a defensive style game, which plays into the favor of the Philadelphia Eagles because their defense can shut down Blake Bortles and the Jaguars. So second half football, it'll be great to see Carson Wentz come down and put up some points, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. Obviously would be even better, but to kind of see that offense get some rhythm, right? They're kind of missing that rhythm in the NFL. You see a lot of teams, and we've seen this with some teams that had high-powered offenses a year ago, that some of their offenses are they're missing that click, right? They're missing that fire. And with the Eagles, they just, for me, they got to find some more rhythm with their receiving core. I know the O-line's banged up, and Danny said it best earlier. They're going to struggle without an O-line. They got injuries, but like I said, it's October. It's Halloween. It's almost Halloween. These teams are going to have injuries right now. Week 8 is where a typical team can battle through injuries. And if you're as great as we think the Eagles can be and are, a defending Super Bowl champion, they got to get through these injuries. I'm not saying this is not an excuse. I mean, they are banged up, and it's hard to overcome a lack of a running game in the NFL. This isn't college football. If you watched Texas and Oklahoma State last night, you can see teams you can make up for not having a running game. It happens. I mean, you see teams in college just air it out and do the air raid offenses. In the NFL, it's a little different. I think you need to have a running game to establish that pass. It's NFL 101, right? It's the style of the NFL. You got to be able to establish a run game and then to try to open up the pass game through the air. So it'll help Carson out if they can somehow establish some rhythm, get some first downs, and make some plays. So that's what's happening with the Philadelphia Eagles here today. If you want to chime in on the game updates, if you guys want to provide some updates on the Facebook Live app, we can do so as the show goes on. It's hard to do the show and watch the game at the same time. So we're going to need to get that discussion going here on the chat room. Coming up in 5 minutes flat, the GodfatherLocks.com free pick segment of the day, a big NFL Sunday, and of course, we always say the NFL Sunday shows are a little bigger than the Saturday's college football show because the NFL does what the NFL does, and it's marketed very well. Everybody has their fantasy teams going on. We'll do the fantasy football segment at 11:30. 11:15, we'll give out 2 free picks of the day for your NFL Sunday and what to look out for the day. Top 5 NFL games of the day coming up as it is according to me. What games you guys have circled. Of course, the Steelers are back in action today, coming off of a bye week last week after they beat the Bengals, got to 3-2-1. They have a great, tough matchup today against Cleveland. The reason why I say that is because they tied the first go-around. What to expect from the Steelers today. Le'Veon Bell out. Right? The story was he was going to come back after the bye week. That didn't happen. He's not there. And it's one of those things where you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, even if Le'Veon Bell does come back, how does a team welcome a guy after 7 weeks or 8 weeks of missing and holding out because of money? How does that really work with the locker room? That was a big question nationally with a lot of the local shows saying, what happens to Le'Veon Bell when he comes back, and if the Steelers teammates embrace him, right? And how do they treat Le'Veon Bell? Well, he didn't come back. He's not back. The Pittsburgh Steelers still don't have Le'Veon Bell today, and he's still holding out, which was a shock to many. The report was after the bye week, he was going to come out. He was going to come back and play, and many were wondering what they were going to do with James Conner and what they were going to do with Le'Veon Bell and kind of sharing the carries. They don't have to worry about that right now. That's why they should trade him. they should make a trade before this deadline and get him out of there. And if someone wants to take on his deal, we're talking about the Eagles, right? The Eagles need running back help. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and see what team is willing to take on Le'Veon Bell and someone that could obviously afford him with the contract after this year. Because what good is he to the Pittsburgh Steelers just sitting at home not doing anything? So if you're a Steelers fan and you've got Le'Veon Bell sitting there, the report was he was going to come back. Now he doesn't. I don't really care how his teammates embrace him. If his teammates, okay, the receiving core of Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, and I'm pretty sure James Conner, even though he would get the lesser of the load, I'm pretty sure he'd want him back to help out that offense. And Ben Roethlisberger, of course, would love to have him back. Does it really matter how his teammates, would embrace him? If there's a chance for him to come back, come back. If he doesn't want to, make a trade. So I'm actually shocked that we don't see Le'Veon Bell back here this week and sticking to that report that we had seen come out that he was going to come back after the bye week. It's pretty much all a done deal, right, Joe? I mean, at this point, if the guy wants cash, right? I mean, let's put yourself in perspective because, you look at it as, let's say a guy holds out of work for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, and there's a certain goal that you have as a team, right? Your objective is to win a Super Bowl. If this guy decides to come back, are you really concerned about his contract or what happened in prior weeks? Like, do you give a rat's ass? You're trying to win a Super Bowl.
If he works for me in my company, you're fired.
You're fired. Okay.
You're fired.
You're fired. But this is the NFL. So let's look at it as like...
You're fired. That's it. That's it. You want to be a princess, we have a contract.
Okay, but how about let's look at it this way. You're fired, but let's look at it as the NFL being the NFL. Yeah. So you would say trade him. Get rid of him. Whatever it takes to get rid of him.
Yeah, get rid of him.
And that's why I'm shocked that the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't done that yet.
And that's where I get back into my point of football has evolved. It has changed. And it hasn't changed for the better. It has changed for the worse.
Yeah.
We got people who don't know how to tackle. So what do? They come from this free safety position, full speed, and spearing people.
And then there's penalties.
And then there's penalties.
Yep.
People are getting concussions and all. You know what? Learn how to tackle.
Yeah.
There'll be less concussions,
yeah.
I should say.
Don't lead with your head, all other stuff. Yeah.
Instead of focusing on team, we have too many individuals.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit out because I feel that I'm worth this much.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? You might be.
He is.
But that's what you have an agent for. You play and let your agent negotiate.
Yeah. And his agent. Now, from what we read about Le'Veon Bell was the agent wanted him to hold out because he deserved more cash. We talked about Le'Veon Bell the first couple of weeks of the show, and we said running back shelf life. He wants to get paid, right? He wants to get paid. He knows that he's going to take blows to the head. He's going to get 30 some odd carries a game. The guy from Seattle, Earl Thomas, safety, wanted a contract, right? He argued for a contract. He sat out. He comes back. His second game back, he tears his ACL, Joe. He tears his ACL. He gives the middle finger to the Seattle Seahawks sideline because now he tears his ACL and he didn't get paid. So if you're Le'Veon Bell and his agent, they're sitting at home saying, do you really want to be in that position? Do you want to go back and get yourself hurt?
That's the chance you take. That could have happened
week one.
Without him sitting out. Week one,
That's true.
Week two,
That's
week
true.
three.
That's true. Good point.
It could have happened at practice. It could have happened at home while he was grabbing some. One of his children left a banana peel.
And he slipped. Yeah.
It's going to happen what's going to happen.
Freak accidents have happened.
I look at it as the same thing as tenant-landlord deal. Okay, you want your landlord to fix this and fix that. He doesn't fix it. What does the tenant do? They hold out on the rent.
Yeah.
6 months down the road, you still holding on to rent.
Yeah, where are you living?
Guess what? Yeah, you finally won. It got fixed, but guess what? This guy already started proceedings to get you evicted.
Yeah. It's a really good point. But I think we're on the same page as get rid of him. Get rid of him. That's what I'm saying.
You not only. All right, so you don't have your star player.
Yeah.
Or one of your star players.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're hurting in that position. And there's certain plays that you design for certain people you bring on and all that. But at the same time, without even counting that, you're kind of screwing with the focus of the team.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, we're focused. We're playoff.
Yeah,
game 2, game 3, whatever your goal is for week to week.
Yeah.
But then you got this backstory.
It takes over the locker room. It has to. Because, they started sluggish. They were 1-2-1. Then they ripped off 2 big wins in a row, Pittsburgh. Yeah. Now they're 3-2-1. They come off a bye week. They play Cleveland today at home. So James Conner has filled in very well. He's been a beast for them. But it is a distraction. Nobody can bullshit that. It's a distraction. The guy wants to get paid. It's kind of like, for me, this story is kind of like, but now it's kind of like, fuck him. You know what I mean? Like, if he ain't going to come back, he's not going to come back. But you know, those players in the locker room, and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, they know they would use him and they would need him. But they're at the point where, okay, let's say he does come back. And you're the fellow players. Aren't your objective is to win a Super Bowl trophy. So what are you going to do? Just tell Le'Veon Bell, no, I don't want you here? Bro, what you did is you F this team, so now I'm not going to take your services? You know damn well Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster and, you know, Jesse James and all those offensive weapons they have would take Le'Veon Bell and say, come and help us win a championship. Let's put this aside and win a championship. That's how it should be.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
But the organizations should say, like you said, Joe, fire his that. Let him move on. Call up the Eagles, who need a running back, and make a trade.
The next guy's going, well, I'm worth just as much or more.
Yeah. Well, James Conner is playing pretty well, man.
You know what? I'm sitting out for a couple weeks, too, so I get that money.
Yeah.
Guess what happens now? Now you're short in that position.
Yeah. And now you have nobody running the ball.
Because there's no discipline. There's no...
Yeah.
Like, my team that works for me.
Yeah.
Everybody will tell you, if they work for me, I want production.
That's what it's about.
I don't
care. In any aspect of work.
I don't care what you do on your break. I don't care if you drink 10 cups of coffee. I don't care if you smoke 4 packs of cigarettes during the workday.
Doesn't matter. Just get the work done.
I want production.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you make me happy and we're far ahead of schedule, I'm popping for lunch.
Yeah.
So I take care of my team. But as soon as someone messes up, I let them know. If they do it again, sayonara.
Well, that's only fair. I mean, that's the fair way to look at it. Like,
we have a contract.
Exactly. And that's the thing with Le'Veon. So for me, it's interesting to see the Steelers come back off of a bye week, and he's not there yet. That's why I wanted to talk about it today. It's one of my topics. I know the Eagles game.
Is he keeping in shape?
Well, no one's seen him. They're saying like he's been off the radar. No one's seen. That's what's interesting about Le'Veon. Like, what the hell is he doing?
Then again, he can be up like the boxers do. They go up to the Colorado
and work out,
and they train up there, secluded. You don't know.
The Eagles have scored. There's an update. We do have an update. 17-6. That's why we're not seeing any comments on that. I knew this was going to happen today. Well, how about this? Carson Wentz pass to Wendell Smallwood for a 36-yard touchdown completion. The Philadelphia Eagles finally. Now let's hold our breath now. They were up 17-0 last week against Carolina, and they didn't finish the deal. So 17-6 late in that game. Now 8.5 left in the third quarter. Carson Wentz, he must have heard me as I ripped into him that we finally have to see him take a stranglehold of this team and push them to a big London victory. Now look, how does this change the landscape? We're going to get to the GodfatherLocks.com pick segment coming up in a couple of minutes. I promise everybody. I know I say 11:15, but this is radio. We kind of have to, one thing leads to another. We got a lot of comments coming in. Jeff has a big comment on Le'Veon Bell for a defensive starter plus a draft pick. Bell gets hurt and suspended often, not worth the headache with his attitude. I don't know if he's going to get his money he wants from any team. Spot on. And that's from a Pittsburgh Steeler diehard. He's probably the biggest Steelers fan I know, Jeff. And, you know, good, obviously one of my best friends. And I watch games with him, and I see how he watches games. I see his interest in the Pittsburgh Steelers and how big he is on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is coming from a diehard fan. Yep. He's saying they'd rather get themselves a draft pick or a defensive starter that can help that secondary that was torched early in the year by the Chiefs, by the Ravens. You know, you saw even Tampa Bay was having success in the second half with Ryan Fitzpatrick against that secondary. So they could have used the help, Jeff. Absolutely. I would have rather seen them trade him and get something back because, you know, that's another hidden part. Yes, he's one of the best players in the NFL, but the guy gets hurt. He's banged up. And that's why he's playing his hand and his agent is playing his hand. If I'm banged up and I'm continually hurt and on the injured list, I want to make sure I get paid before I get injured again and tear my ACL, and then I never get to see that money. That's what he's doing. So he's playing his leverage.
You know what it comes down to? These guys get drafted out of college. They see the money. You know, as they should, you're getting paid for your talent. You know,
of course.
They buy this. They buy their mama a big house or whatever. They're on top of the world. $10,000 gold ring in the whole nine. Which, you know, once again.
Hey, each his own.
You're getting paid for your skills. But I feel like, I don't know if you ever watched that show. Excuse me, everyone.
That's all right.
On HBO with The Rock, it's called Ballers.
Oh, yeah, I know a lot of people. I know Jeff watches it. I never watched it. But
they need someone like that. They need someone who's going to better money manage. And unfortunately, I don't think they all do it.
Now
I know there's people out there.
Was The Rock the manager in the show, or
he was an ex-football player that became?
He like took on younger players.
What's the title I'm looking for? Like recruiter for agent, like a sports agent.
Sports
but
agent.
Then he went to the money management side.
Yeah.
basically these guys need to start thinking about that before they even enter the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, how many great college players went into the NFL,
And
won
flaked out.
2 games.
No, it's happened a lot.
Injury.
It's happened a lot. Injury, and they bust it out. They get paid. It messes with the mindset, and then you're out of the NFL. And then you got guys like Saquon that gets a huge paycheck.
Yes.
Top 3 pick overall. Buys his house, look, right in our area. Buys a house for his parents, and now he's ripping defenses. He's shredding defenses, and he looks like he's the next generation of a running back. But so there's certain players that you hit on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But now remember, because he doesn't have help here and there.
Yeah.
And carrying the ball.
Yeah.
How long
can he last?
Yeah.
Taking shots.
So his career could be over.
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of where. Look, this is where I was earlier.
Tiki Barber.
In the year, Tiki Barber, yeah, exactly. It's a good example. I was in this earlier in the year with Le'Veon Bell. I thought, look, to get his, right? I was saying that. I was one of those guys that came on. We did a show about Le'Veon Bell, and I said, I'm all for it, right? For someone to go out and get his money. I didn't expect this to be 9 weeks in, 8 weeks in, and him to not be back with his team. You know, this is week 8 of the NFL. You're playing the Cleveland Browns at home, and Cleveland's improved. We've seen Cleveland compete in every game they've been in this year. They've played well. They have a few wins. This isn't this is a big divisional game today, and they're an 8-point favorite today. They're expected to beat the Cleveland Browns. So I'm surprised not to see Le'Veon Bell back by now. I'm surprised.
Say he holds out to the playoffs.
Yeah. And then comes back.
Pittsburgh wins the playoff.
Yeah.
They end up going to the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh wins the Super Bowl. He played 2 games, Super Bowl game and the last playoff game to get to the Super Bowl.
To AFC Championship, yeah.
Shouldn't get a ring.
Well, yeah, he's on the.
Did he earn it?
He didn't earn it, but he's on the roster. He's on the roster.
The water boy earned it.
He's on the roster though.
Yeah, the water boy earned it. Just saying.
It's tough to not contribute to it. Yeah, wow, that's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, again, he's on that roster. I like Pittsburgh. I still think Pittsburgh can make a Super Bowl run. I thought New Orleans and Pittsburgh would be the Super Bowl that we get this year. That's a really good question, Joe. I don't know. I mean, look, Jeff's a Pittsburgh fan, diehard Pittsburgh fan. He let you know it. He wished they would have traded him a long time ago. So I'm looking at this Eagles team, which the Jaguars are driving now, 17-6. It looks like it's turning out to be a really good game. They must have heard me on 2 angles when I was sitting here saying that. I don't know how this team's going to respond in the second half offensively, both sides. We didn't expect to see a high-powered offensive game. Now we're seeing it, right? We're seeing a touchdown by the Eagles. The Jaguars are at the 14-yard line of the Eagles, and they're trying to punch in another touchdown to make this, at least a field goal would make it a 1-possession game. So I'm sure everybody's tuned in, watching this game right now live in London. I'm sure people are tuned in and watching it. If you want to discuss what's happening live in the game, you could tune in on Facebook Live or YouTube Live and on the Mixer app and give me your comments and concerns, of course, on Across the Board Sports Talk Show. I guess the downside to these London games, last Sunday, the show was electric. We had a lot of people commenting. It was the Chargers and the Titans. I know outside of James, who tunes into the show, not many people were really locked and viewed into their TV. This is a little different with the Eagles, right? I mean, a lot of Eagles fans watch this show. The lack of comments on the show is not surprising. I thought this would happen today, that everybody's going to be sitting there looking and watching this game, because it's a big one. It's a big one for the Philadelphia Eagles. We've said it here on the show. We've talked about how they need to get back on that flight from London and get back to American soil, to U.S. soil with a victory. That's a crucial game for the Philadelphia Eagles today. So I'm not surprised by the lack of comments on the show. I think everybody's watching the game right now. I'm trying to update it as much as I can. I see a 3rd and 7 for the Eagles at the 11-yard for the Jaguars, at the Philadelphia 11-yard line. So that's what we've got going for the Jaguars right now. Blake Bortles is trying to lead them to at least a field goal drive. There's 5 minutes and change left in the 3rd quarter. So we're going to see how this possession. There's a touchdown. There it is. So Blake Bortles throws a touchdown to D.D. Westbrook for an 11-yard touchdown. Now, 17-12 is the score here. We'll see if the Jaguars go for 2, which I think they should, right? 17-12. I mean, there is still a quarter and a half left. A quarter and 30-40% left here in the game. I think you do go for 2. You don't start chasing points early, but make it a touchdown game, a field goal game. If you can try to get in there and get yourself a field goal here in this possession here. Let's see if they do it. I'm trying to update as soon as I can here for you guys that are listening and not really watching. But it is a challenge. It's hard to get to both apps. Let's see if they try to go for 2. I would do that, Joe. I mean, what would you do down 17-12, 4 minutes in the 3rd? And you just scored? I would go for the 2-point conversion. Why make it 17-13? It's not like it's 17 17-12 with 4 minutes left in the game would be an obvious going for two. Let's see if they do it. I'm trying to see here. It still says 17-12 on my app, so I don't know if they actually went for two or not, or if they're reviewing the game. That tends to happen a lot. And for the Jaguars to come down and score after Carson Wentz just scored with Smallwood, pretty impressive for Jacksonville. Much needed score for the Giants. They are going for two. That is the update right now. So Jeff comes in with the update, and they don't get it. So 17-12. They failed to get the 2-point conversion here on late in the third quarter here for the Jaguars. So the Eagles hold a 17-12 lead late in that game. Right now, 4 minutes here in the third quarter. So we'll see what the Eagles look. The Eagles need to win this game. That's kind of where the season lies of going 4-4. Getting back onto the flight back from London would be a mental advantage, right? It's a huge plus, not just to get your team to 4-4, as I've hinted at, which we're getting to right now. The GodfatherLocks.com pick segment is coming up right now to talk about your two free picks of the day. What if the Redskins beat the Giants beat the Redskins today, and the Eagles go to 4-4, and all of a sudden you're headed back and you're a half game out of first place? So your free picks of the day, GodfatherLocks.com. We'll also get into some fantasy football discussion for the next 10 minutes. If you have any stardom, sit-em questions, I know a lot of people have used this Facebook Live app and the forum on the show to get some opinions and get people talking about who to start and who to sit. You want to chime in on that? We can do so as well here on the chat room forum if you have any fantasy football predicaments that you're in. My first free pick is that. So I just said it. Redskins-Giants game. I think the Giants get a win today. I do. I think at home, I'm not a believer in Washington. I don't think they're very good on the road. We saw them against New Orleans. Look, they've won some impressive games at home. We've seen them at home beat Carolina. They've won some. They play well at home. We've seen it. I mean, it's not a surprise. They just beat Dallas at home last week in a thrilling game where the Cowboys missed that field goal late in the game. I think today, New York, I know they're 1-6. I think they played better in Atlanta in the second half. They covered the spread at least. They only lost by a field goal against the Falcons. I think the Giants need a win. I think they get a win. This is usually a spot where Eli Manning can somewhat put up numbers. It's a divisional game. I think the line is 1.5. I will take New York. I think the Giants win. They need a win. They need a win. All right, that's the bottom line. They got to get a victory today. I think they do it. I think they come through with a win. A lot of times in the NFL, we see teams that have a good performance the week before that, like the Giants had against Atlanta. They arguably should have won that game against the Falcons on Monday Night Football. You see them come back the next week and get a victory and finally get that check mark. I think the Giants get their second win of the season and they get a victory. So that's your first free pick. The second free pick of the day, I talked about them, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, you tied the first go-around against the Cleveland Browns. It was an ugly game. It was a comeback by Cleveland that was the first week of the season. Everybody was kind of on Cleveland a little bit in that game. I think the spread was short. Everybody was thinking that Cleveland, after all those off-season acquisitions, that they were going to come back and make some noise and get some wins. And they played them pretty damn tough in Cleveland. This is a little bit different. Okay, this is in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's off of a bye. They're fresh. They've got some momentum. They went into the bye with some mojo. I think they continue it today. I would lay the 8 points. I would think the Pittsburgh Steelers get a big victory today. You saw what happened, unfortunately, in Pittsburgh yesterday with the shooting at the church, the synagogue, with all those people that had lost their lives. Unfortunate situation for the city of Pittsburgh. I always look at a situation like this and I say a team rallies, right? A team goes through that emotional, for the city of Pittsburgh. They get that victory today. I always feel like that has a lot to do with the team, the way they perform on the field. I think Pittsburgh, not only do they need the win because they got Baltimore next week, which could be even huge for Pittsburgh next week to get some momentum rolling, but I think today they lay the 8 points. They beat them pretty impressively. I would take the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Steelers and Giants are your two GodfatherLocks.com free picks of the day. How about that? So little bit local flavor to the picks today. I think the Giants get it done plus 1.5 and the Pittsburgh Steelers -8 at home against Cleveland. Those are your two free picks of the day. Eagles now got the ball back. Second and 10 from their own 25, up 5. So now it becomes a little bit stressful for Eagles fans. There's no cushion now. You're only up 5 points. a touchdown by Jacksonville would give them the lead. So this is a situation where the Eagles need to at least get on attack on a field goal and get themselves back up 8 points. You don't want to take a loss 18-17 or 20-17 right now. So stressful times for your Philadelphia Eagles fans out there. You know, I would. You don't want to go 3-5. I mean, talk about the potential of going 3-5 as a defending Super Bowl champion. That's got to be pretty bad. That's got to hurt the morale of a team when you're a defending Super Bowl champ, and then you come back and start the season 3-5. If they take a loss today to Jacksonville, would be pretty shocking and surprising. You know, we've seen it before with Super Bowl teams, right? The Super Bowl hangover has happened. It's happened to a lot of teams. It's happened to a lot of Giants teams that have won the Super Bowl and have come back and have struggled the year after. You know, the motivational factor, whether or not you're still hungry to get that second Super Bowl, right? You win the first Super Bowl, it's hard to get that second one. Where's the motivation? Where's the hunger factor for winning a Super Bowl the second year go around after you get that big one that won it for the city of Philadelphia? That's going to be in question right now if they don't come together and win this game. And, you know, it's hard to start the season on fire the way you left off in any league. I mean, it's not easy to do that. But for the Philadelphia Eagles, you know, you don't want to start 3-5. I mean, I'm overstating the obvious here. So 17-12, 4 minutes left in the third quarter. The Eagles got a 3rd and 9 from their own 26. So if they give that ball back to Jacksonville, Jacksonville's going to have a chance to get good field position and a chance to take the lead. So your thoughts on the Eagles-Jaguars game as it's happening, the top 5 NFL games of the day as it pertains to me and, of course, across the board sports talk show. I mentioned one of them right there. I think the Browns and Steelers is going to be a really important game for the AFC North, and to see what kind of momentum this Pittsburgh team's has coming out of the bye week. That's one of the top games. But I cannot go any further without mentioning the Packers and the Rams today at 4:25, America's game of the week. You're going to see Aaron Rodgers, arguably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, going on the road against one of the best teams in the NFL, the Super Bowl favorite Los Angeles Rams in LA. I mean, you're seeing a quarterback versus a hot team like that. Of course, Fox is going to make it America's game of the week, and it's a big, big game for the NFC picture. We'll see that today in LA at 4:25. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers got a couple big games coming up in the next few weeks. It's going to be a tough slate. And now the Rams have the Saints next week. They have a big game coming up for the NFC, positioning for the NFC. So to see what they're all about and what the Saints and Rams are, you know, Saints are getting hot. The Saints got a big one against Minnesota. So some big NFC games, and Carson Wentz takes a big sack. 11-yard loss from Miles Jack, the UCLA Bruins. So Eagles are punting the ball from their own 15. They're in trouble. They're in trouble right now. It's going to be an interesting last quarter and change to see what the Eagles can kind of muster up here. Up only 5. Now they're going to have to rely on that defense. We saw what the defense did last week in the fourth quarter against Carolina, just getting gashed in the second half, and Cam Newton was picking them apart in that fourth quarter. Blake Bortles and Cam Newton are, you can't really compare the two. I know that Cam's not really that exceptional. I mean, he plays better than Blake Bortles, but it's not really saying much. See how the Eagles defense can respond here in this second half now with only a 5-point advantage late in this game. We're going to see what the Eagles defense is all about as they pump back to Jacksonville. They're going to get the ball at midfield, man. D.D. Westbrook returns the ball for 23 yards, and Jacksonville has got great field position. This is going to shape up to be a pretty good and entertaining fourth quarter if you're watching this game in London. And of course, it's a good way to start the day. So I'm all for the London games. I know people have ripped it here on the show, flying over and the time difference and watching the game this early in the morning. You heard James earlier on the show. I think last week a lot of people had said that they like having this early game to start the day. I like it too. And fantasy football has gotten has benefited from having a game this early in the morning, because you get to get you see where your fantasy team lies early in the morning, and you see what kind of points you need as the day goes on at 1 o'clock and at 4 o'clock in your NFL games, and of course the night game. Your third biggest game of the day is the Saints and Vikings. Look, last year the Saints took that loss late in the season. You lose a game like that to Minnesota in that type of atmosphere, in that NFC divisional round, right? The way they lost. There's a big revenge factor going. This is the revenge of all revenges today for the New Orleans Saints, okay? I know a lot of you people have, must have recalled. I'm sure you remember what happened to the Saints last year against Minnesota on that bomb to Stephon Diggs, and of course Minnesota gets the miraculous touchdown, and they take their way and they punch their ticket to the NFC Championship game. We all remember how the Saints, the secondary, and Williams whiffed on that ball to Stephon Diggs. New Orleans, this is stuck in their head, right? You know that the Saints are thinking about this game in Minnesota tonight on Sunday Night Football against the Vikings. How can you not back the New Orleans Saints today or want to see them get revenge after their season was ended the way it was last year in Minnesota? I think the Saints are in a good spot to get a victory against the Minnesota Vikings. It's not one of your free picks. It's one of your top 5 games to look out for of the day. I think Sunday Night Football, thus far this year, they had Patriots-Chiefs 2 weeks ago with Mahomes versus Brady. Now they get Saints-Vikings, the revenge of the divisional round game in Minnesota with that dome game with the crowd, with Drew Brees playing the way Drew Brees is playing right now, and the Saints are on fire. This might be the biggest game of the day. I think this is far bigger than the Packers and the Rams. This is a revenge game, and to me, this is the biggest game of the day as you look at the NFL board, and you start to see what the games are and what we have to offer. The Jaguars are driving. They are driving. It's going to be tough, Joe. I mean, do the Eagles really lose this game? 17-6 lead. The Jaguars score. They get the ball back. Looks like they got momentum. I'm not physically watching it. So, they got the mojo, though. They got the mojo. 3-5 Philadelphia Eagles. And what this means is this going to be a Redskins Cowboys division? That's bad. That's bad. This is looking like a divisional winner. If the Eagles can't get this ship right, this is going to be an ugly division winner.
Listen, man. The sun shines on the dog's ass sometimes.
Yeah, right. End of the third quarter, it looks like the Jaguars got a 1st and 10 from the Eagles 30 with 1 quarter to go, and the Eagles defense is a little flat-footed right now. It looks like they're getting gashed. I'm not watching the game. I know a lot of people are. That's why I'm seeing no comments on the chat room. There's a lot of Eagles fans that tune in. Give me your thoughts. It's the end of the third quarter. If people are tuned in right now, give me your thoughts on what you're seeing. Of course, this could be an interactive show during the game. That's kind of how I was hoping for it, but it's a lack of watch. I knew this was going to happen. I even thought about moving the show to later, right, Joe? I thought we should go on air maybe at noon because people are tuned into this Eagles game, man. And you start to see people tuning in now as it goes to the fourth quarter. What are we seeing? Let's hear it. Let's hear everyone's comments.
Jags are driving down again, and Eagles can't tackle.
They can't. Are you watching the game right now? Too? Or
no, I'm reading your comments.
Oh, read the comments. Okay. I'm not. I can't. I think my thing's lagging. Then I'm seeing no comments right now. Let me open up the page. Phew, Facebook. Let me see what's going on here. Let me try to reopen the page because I'm seeing a lot of people listening. I'm just not seeing the comment section with the comments here. Let's see. Who's the latest comment here?
It's Will Werkheiser Jr.
Oh, my man Billy. Oh, here we go. We do a lot of. See, I had the screen. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Pretty low res.
That explains it. All right, James. Oh, wow, look at this. The comment. I got to make up for some comments. All right, James says Steelers need to get anything they can for him now because he's walking at the end of the season. That's in regards to Le'Veon Bell. My comments weren't loading. Danny Diop says touchdown Smallwood. Oh, I'm really behind. Steelers found their replacement for less of a headache and cheaper pockets. Yes, they did with James Conner. Big screenplay for Smallwood. He scores. Danny Diop said he gets a ring, but they will start him, nor do I believe they even play him in the playoffs. That's in regards to your Le'Veon Bell comment. Touchdown Jags. They scored. Jags driving down again, and Eagles can't tackle. That's my man Billy Werkheiser, who's a big Dolphins fan, by the way, who took a bad loss on Thursday to the Texans, and they're now 4-4. And Ryan Tannehill should be sent out on a ship somewhere. He should be playing in London. Go play some soccer. That's where Tannehill should be, playing some soccer for Crystal Palace or Arsenal or Tottenham. Right, that's where Ryan Tannehill should be. But I apologize. The comments were backed up. The internet was, I don't know if it was the internet or it was my app. Now we got the comments rolling. So what's happening up to the minute discussion points about this Eagles game and what we're seeing right now. The Eagles 17-12 lead, but the Jaguars are driving again, and a chance to take a touchdown would give them the lead. And if they score, they will go for 2 on the back end. So it will be 18-17. Then they go for 2. They would make it 20-17. So whether or not the Eagles score is a question. The Jaguars score. That's what we're waiting for. So who gets it first? That's kind of what we're doing. Do they kick a field goal? Do they score a touchdown? Let's get some updates as the show goes on. Fantasy football discussion. This fantasy football segment is brought to you by the law offices of Albert Yakub. I'm sure Albert is watching this Eagles game on the edge of his seat. 610-437-2185 is how to get in contact with my man Albert for a free consultation, or visit yakublaw.com. That's YACOUBLAW.com for your free consultation. Give him a phone call for a drug offense, a DUI, violent offenses, whatever you need. Contact the law offices of Albert Yakub and he will take care of you. Please mention the show that you've heard about it if you want to get yourself a free consultation. Red Jewelers. Yes, 2 locations for my man Red Jewelers, 5248 Hamilton Boulevard in Allentown, 704 West Emmaus Ave in Allentown. The best place to buy, sell, customize, and repair your jewelry. Christmas is coming right around the corner. This is the time, right? This is the time you want to start to look for getting yourself a good gift and a great gift for your loved ones, your girlfriend, your wife, your friends, your kids, whatever you need, bracelets, necklaces. I mean, I don't know what people are shopping for these days as far as jewelry is concerned, but get yourself a nice little product there, nice little gift to give away to your wife or your girlfriend or your mom even, or your grandma, whatever you're looking for. Go to jewelerslehigh-valley.com. It looks like the Jags took a penalty, so they're backed up a little bit, right? That's what I'm seeing right now. They had a pass interference penalty. They're at the 40. So 1st and 20 from the Eagles' 40-yard line. Another one of my fine sponsors. We're going to be there on Thanksgiving for a special live edition of Across the Board Sports Talk Show, as a football game will be broken out at the Cut Above the Rest, 1058 3rd Street, Whitehall, PA, 610-443-0511. If you're looking for a haircut, the best barbers in town exist at 1058 3rd Street in Whitehall, PA, 1058 3rd Street. Again, 610-443-0511. Call them up and schedule yourself a fine haircut. And your Lehigh Valley Realtor, Eli Boutros, 484-547-8228. Eli is ELIB8@yahoo.com if you're looking to send him an email, or visit him at Elias Boutros, LehighValleyAgents.com. Fantasy football, what do we got today? Anybody out there looking for a stardom, sit-em, definitely comment and leave your comments on Facebook. Of course, you will get help from the other listeners on the show. This isn't just me saying what I think should happen. As far I don't make myself out to be some fantasy football guru like I'm Matthew Berry, but it's good to get a discussion going on Facebook. If you got any stardom, sit-em, questions or comments, guys that you want to start, guys that are, if you're in your league and you need some help, definitely throw out your chat room questions. My team stinks. And the reason why my team stinks is Le'Veon Bell was drafted first for me. So I'm taking it on the chin without Le'Veon Bell. That's kind of what happened with my team this year. Jeff says, Big Ben or Goff, Rams over under is 57. Jeff, it seems like we talk about this all the time. I would go Jared Goff, because the Packers defense is going to look, if the Niners were able to put up numbers against the Packers defense, you would think that Jared Goff would be able to put up numbers against the Packers defense. Okay. They did it with Beathard last week or 2 weeks ago. The Niners offense was lighting up the Green Bay Packers. I think Jared Goff would be able to do the same. Big Ben should have a good game against Cleveland. I think, it's one of my free picks. I think they will have a good game. It's just hard to trust Ben Roethlisberger. I know a lot of people are saying it's time for Ben to hang it up, and there are rumors saying this is his last season as a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. I would go Jared Goff, Jeff. I think Goff is definitely the way to go. The Packers secondary was proven to be pretty sluggish against Beathard and the Niners. I think Jared Goff and that Rams offense, who have been relentless, right? They've been absolutely on a tear for recently, and the Rams have been undefeated, of course, a Super Bowl contender. The Eagles now are backs against the wall. The Jaguars 3rd and 10 from the Eagles' 15-yard line. So it looks like the Jags are right there. They can hold them. They'll get a field goal attempt. So let's see if the Jaguars can punch it in or the Eagles can hold them, and they do. So it's 4th and 10 from the Eagles' 15. So it looks like the Jags are going to come out and kick a field goal and make it 17-15 is what I'm looking at right now, if everybody can confirm. 17-15 Eagles late in the game, 13 minutes left in the game. So a 2-point lead is not safe by any means. The 2-point lead is a field goal by the Jags can definitely put a damper in the Eagles' hopes to come back from London as a 4-4 team. That's the goal here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I think if you're an Eagles fan, you better hope they get a victory today and beat a Jacksonville team that was dominated and taken out by the Houston Texans last week. And Blake Bortles is looking pretty bad for the most part. And he's moving the ball now. I haven't seen him since halftime. So he's pretty much moving the ball now in the second half. So we're going to see what this game ends up looking like. And we'll see. I like the Giants today. I think the Giants can beat Washington. So I think the Eagles need to get this victory and get to 4-4. If the Eagles get this win, they get themselves right back in the picture. The Redskins will be 4-3 if they take a loss to New York. And that's that's a pretty good position to be in, right? If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you're 4-4, and the way you started, and you're all of a sudden you're right in the mix and a half a game out of the Washington Redskins in that division, and we'll see what happens. So 17-15, I believe, is the score right now. I think the Jaguars kicked the field goal. They did. So the Eagles are getting the ball back with about 13 minutes to go. This would be a good time for Carson Wentz to get that second touchdown that I asked him to get in the halftime, right? I mean, you're up 2 points, 13 minutes left in the game. I'm going to go watch the game. I think a lot of people are doing that right now. Right, Joe?
Yeah.
London games, like them or hate them, people are watching it, and that's why we're getting a lot of people tuned in right now watching what's going to happen with the Philadelphia Eagles. The top 5 games of the day, as I said it, one would be the Saints and Vikings. Revenge, revenge, revenge. You look at Pittsburgh and Cleveland. That's personally one of the games I'll be looking out for to see what Pittsburgh's all about. Also, game number 3 would be Packers and the Rams. Game number 4, it's debatable I think the Baltimore-Carolina game is going to be intriguing to see how Baltimore responds to Justin Tucker missing that extra point last week at home against the Saints. I think that's going to be an interesting game to see how Baltimore responds to Carolina, who took out the Philadelphia Eagles last week. I actually like Baltimore a little bit today. We're going to see what the Ravens are made of on the road. That's an interesting game. And also another game to look out for, the Bucs and the Bengals, right? I mean, the Bengals took a couple losses in a row. I think they're a fraudulent team. The Bucs, big win last week against Cleveland. We'll see how the Bucs can respond on the road against Cincinnati. But hands down, the biggest 2 games of the day are in the NFC. The Saints in revenge against the Vikings. And then, of course, the Packers and the Rams. Aaron Rodgers versus an undefeated Rams team that has an inside track of being a Super Bowl contender, right? Everybody's kind of picking the Rams to be the Super Bowl team come February. I mean, how about that? The LA Rams, they're 7-0, man. They're tearing up the league right now. That offense is dominant. They're running the ball. They're passing the ball. They've got a pretty damn good defense.
Well, someone in LA's got to win something.
Yeah, the Dodgers. Yeah, I know. Not good.
Hang in there,
Not good.
Abby.
Not good.
Yeah.
Well, Abby's tuned in right now. Yeah, so we're going to mention this again. Of course, we've been mentioning it on the show. The toy drive for Ariella. The Ariella toy drive extravaganza is still happening. They're accepting gifts for Chop. Yes, if you want to go for more information on my Facebook page, you can do so. The toy extravaganza. Joe, I think we said it best a couple weeks ago. Everybody's got $10 or $20. Everybody.
Yep, $5.
$5. If you're going out, you're buying yourself a pack of cigarettes. That's $9. I'm pretty sure you've got an extra $5, $6 hanging around to buy a gift.
Dollar store.
Yeah, anything.
Some ribbons.
Yep.
Some wrapping paper.
Something
is a big help.
Yeah, just go to Amazon, buy
the peel and stick tags you can put from who to who.
Yeah. The little Christmas
gifts. That's a big help.
Yeah, I agree. A
bag of candy.
Something. Yeah, exactly. If you're looking for more information, please, we're asking everybody to donate to the toy extravaganza for Ariella. And if you want to get any more information, please, you can get the link. Everything's on my Facebook page, on Across the Board Sports Talk Show Facebook page. I was talking to Albert, again, fine sponsor of the show, Albert Yacoub, who is going to be on as a guest in the near future.
Listen, you got $300 to go see George Wassouf at the Palace. You got $5.
Well, that's a good point.
You got $5.
That was a great party by Meza, by the way, on Friday. Speaking of that, it was a great party.
Let's be real. You got $300 to buy a ticket. You got $5 in your pocket.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm sitting here on the show and I talk about.
And if you don't know how to budget.
Yeah, I'm sitting here talking about the lines and the gambling and stuff like that. I'm speaking to those who can afford to do that. That's for entertainment purposes. If you can do that, you can definitely buy yourself get a gift for a kid that can't, that's sick and that needs the gift. I think it's it goes without saying. Everybody should be able to chip in to this great thing that the Chop and for Ariella for the toy extravaganza. The Eagles are driving right now. They are moving the ball to try to get back down there and at least kick a field goal, but a touchdown would be huge if they can come down and get themselves a 9-point advantage. They are moving into Jacksonville territory, 2nd and 1 from the Jaguars 30. So we're gonna go out, we're gonna go down, go up and watch this game and finish out this second half with the Eagles and see if they can get themselves a much needed victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's crucial for the Eagles to get back on that plane, 4-4, to come back to America in a bye week at 500. And then, if you're a Super Bowl champ, there's no excuse to not go at least 5-3 in the next 8 games in the season. So I would think they would be able to do that with their schedule being a little tough. I know they haven't played the Saints and the Rams yet, but I would think they would be able to do so. If you're a Super Bowl champion, you would be able to win that. And again, I think it would be monumental if they lose this game right now to Jacksonville. And there will be a lot of pissed off Eagles fans in the community and listening to Across the Board Sports Talk Show. So good luck, everybody, with your picks today. Again, the 2 free picks of the show, the Giants and the Steelers. Steelers -8, Giants +1.5. We'll see what the Eagles can do if they can close out this game today in London. It's been a good weekend, 2 really good shows. We'll see what's going on with the Dodgers and the Red Sox. I lost a little steam yesterday.
Dodgers better hope Pierce doesn't show up.
Yeah, he crushed them yesterday, man. He crushed them.
He started it.
He did start it. He did.
He came out of nowhere, boom, and everybody else said, well, we can't let him have all the fun.
I know. It's Mitch Moreland with that 3-run homer, and then Steve Pierce just dagged him. And I'm still recovering, man. I was pissed off last night, as you can imagine. I want to see a good series, too. It's not just I'm cheering for the Dodgers. I want to see a good damn World Series. It's been a fucking great World Series, too. It has been a very entertaining World Series. I think the Dodgers, obviously, tonight, backs against the wall. I think they will force Game 6. I'm going to hold on hope that Clayton Kershaw pitches a gem and we get Game 6 on Tuesday night. At least get us a Game 6. That's what I'm hoping. We get another game in the World Series.
Listen.
That's all I got to hope for.
What the hell was that pitcher doing at the end? Rindo, whatever. What is that? Call it the crow pose or something?
Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what he does. He does that the hand.
That weird.
Gets him psyched up. Yeah.
Nigga, you're not a Teen Titan. What the hell?
I know. That's a tough one for.
That's just weird.
Kimbrell, he's a beast though, man. He's a beast.
I mean, I know a lot of athletes have their own little quirk and thing that they do, their own little ritual. Yeah. But that's just weird.
He's been doing that back in his Atlanta days and his San Diego days. He does. It is weird. It is
Does
weird.
that really help you throw the ball that much faster? I need to know.
I think what they say is it helps him like focus in on the pitcher. So it kind of like gears him up, and then he brings the speed and brings the alacrity. As my friend Tony Bruno, my legend Tony Bruno, great coworker of mine, and
get him a massage and get some glasses to focus.
Yeah, exactly. The Eagles now 17-15. They have a 2nd and goal from the 5. So let's see if they punch it in before we go off the air here and the show ends. I think it's a 2nd and goal from the 5. No one's commenting in, so let's see if they can punch it in. It's again 10 minutes left in the game.
James says that's his boy.
Craig Kimbrell, yeah, of course it's his boy. Well,
he got mad.
Yeah, well, James is the biggest Red Sox fan I know. He was juiced up last night. I was pissed off once they lost that game. Once the Dodgers lost, I put my phone on charge and I was out. Actually, once they went down 9-4, I was out. Eagles, let's see, did they punch it in? No, not yet. At least there they did. Touchdown. So Carson Wentz to Zach Ertz, a 5-yard touchdown pass. It is 23-15, pending the extra point, which should make it 24-15. So it looks like the Eagles are all right. Let's see. Hopefully they hold on and get a victory if you're cheering for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's been a good show. Eagles just scored. They got the lead. We'll talk about what happens next Saturday on the College Football Saturday edition. We're going to have a World Series champ by possibly tonight. Possibly Tuesday, possibly Wednesday. We're going to mix in some basketball talk, of course, some NBA talk. We got to get going on some NBA discussion as the show goes on. This was Across the Board Sports Talk Show. Giants +1.5, Pittsburgh -8. Those are your 2 free picks of the show. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you next Saturday. It's been Across the Board Sports Talk Show. See ya.